last time we spoke, Luke, though, you said that you thought that gold and Bitcoin were competing for that neutral reserve asset. Where are we with that competition? How does Bitcoin fit into this picture now?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin is a neutral reserve asset for the people still. It looked for a while. You had a lot of coming out of the 2024 election and early 2025. You had a lot of noise coming into and going out of that election, out of the Trump administration on Bitcoin. And it really faded pretty quickly once they got in office and shifted to gold. That might just be sort of luck or coincidence, not necessarily design. But look, I think Bitcoin, assuming no major technological shifts impair it, which I think it can adjust to, but assuming that it's a harder money, de facto, it is, right? It's 21 million hard cap, et cetera. It's energy tied. It should do really well. To me, the question is if we're going through this monetary system reset, there are parts where gold is written into the system where it's sort of the, in case of emergency break glass asset that can be revalued against and create benefit for these countries that have debt problems, which are basically all of them, where Bitcoin doesn't really, because it's new and hasn't been written into the system anywhere, and because it's so small as an asset. I mean, at 80,000 and change, whatever, $1.6 trillion, that's a drop in the bucket. That's 9 months of U.S. government spending. So that's nothing. So, or excuse me, that's 9 months of U.S. government deficits. That's it's about 2 months of U.S. government spending. So yeah.
So it sounds like you're much less optimistic on Bitcoin. Last time we spoke, gold was around 3,300. You said with the tremendous confidence that gold was going to easily hit 3,800 within the next 6 months. You were very accurate on that call. I'll give you props on that one.
Even a blind squirrel,
huh? Bitcoin was 116,000. You said that you see Bitcoin hitting 200,000 in a year's time. It's going in the wrong direction.
Not so good there, huh? See?
Yeah. Do you still have? Are you optimistic on Bitcoin appreciating in this environment? What takes Bitcoin to 200,000? Is that still an accurate estimate of yours?
We changed our view on Bitcoin in mid-November last year, so we went bearish on it. And I actually sold most of mine personally in November of 2025 at about 96,000, about 24 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. That was a good call. It worked out, went to 12 ounces of gold, and it's bounced back to 16, 17 ounces of gold. So I still think Bitcoin long-term will go to those price levels. The challenge for me in the short run is if you look at how Bitcoin's been trading, it's been trading like a software stock. It's been, if you look at literally Bitcoin over IGV, the software ETF, they're the same chart. It's been trading a lot like NASDAQ. Except not as much on the upside as NASDAQ in recent weeks. But for it to be a neutral reserve asset, it really needs to separate from software. And I just, in the short run, that leads me thinking it's not going to really run away from me. But I think in the long run, it will increasingly become more of that neutral reserve asset. I also think, Bitcoin is to get a real big spike, you need a real big print, as my friend Larry Lepard calls it, and we're seeing this dripped in liquidity, but we're not getting the real big print. And I think we may get that real big print if we get some of the bond crisis issues, if they're allowed to get it to a crisis severity, some of the things we talked about earlier. But I think ultimately Bitcoin long term, I still think it does really well. It's just one of them, right now I think it probably, gun to my head, probably goes a bit higher from here. And then, we reevaluate, but I don't think it's going to run away, like we saw in, say early 21 or, even sort of early last year.
It's interesting that you're pricing Bitcoin in gold. it's interesting that when we started off this conversation, you referenced how the markets are up, but not up relative to gold. I think that's indicative of your thinking. I mean, are you seeing everything effectively priced in gold de facto?
Yeah, it's a helpful discipline because there is so much going on, right? I mean, home prices have run away in America, but home prices in gold terms are at 45-year lows, right? We're living in a debasement era. The policymakers are not bashful about it, right? They've been telling us since 2008. Some people, the Bitcoiners, like to look at things in Bitcoin terms, and I think that's helpful. It's much more volatile. Gold's been less volatile than Bitcoin. It's and has a longer history. It's at the end of the day, you even can go back to the Great Depression, right? 1929. We always hear 1929 comparisons. Look at what the Dow from 1929 to 33 fell 85%. Well, from 29 to 33, it was a gold-backed dollar. Dollar was pegged to gold at $20 an ounce from 29 to 33. What has the Dow done? Remember what I said earlier in the show. Since 2022, S&P's down 40% in gold terms. It was down 50% a couple weeks ago. With the bounce, we're back down to only down 40%. So that's a pretty severe, loss. But I think it's important to look at in gold terms in a world where, because the reserve currency issuer has a debt problem, and the reserve currency issuer is never, ever, ever going to default on their debt, they're always going to print the money. Then you can't, that's like trying to measure, the span of a bridge with a rubber band. It's like, well, how far do we have to go across to, that's how you get people killed. So, you've got to use a hard ruler, and that's gold for me is the hard ruler.
So what possibly derails your theory on gold here?
Political strife in China, political strife in Russia, where those two leaders are replaced by the modern day era of Boris Yeltsin, who is a drunk who sells off the wealth of both of those countries to American oligarchs for pennies on the dollar, and then we control all of China's factories and all of Russia's resources in dollar terms, and we force the world back to that, and we offshore our jobs back to China, and gold's going to be useless. It's going to go down a bunch. My thesis will be complete trash. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what it would really take, I think.
So tremendous upheaval in China and in Russia. I don't know. Sometimes people instigate those kind of upheavals in very sticky and difficult times. Whether they're successful or not is another question. And again, not something I'm necessarily advocating for, but stranger things have been known to happen in the course of history. Luke, as we start to wrap up here, because I've taken up way too much of your time, though, for the investor watching this, not investment advice per se, but what is optimal positioning?
I can give, I don't know what optimal is. That's such a personal question. For me right now, I am overweight cash. I'm overweight T-bills. I'm overweight gold bullion. I'm overweight gold miners. I'm overweight U.S. electrical infrastructure equities. And those are my biggest positions. And, I'm having a fine.
Why are you overweight cash? Are you wanting to have dry powder? Do you see an equity downturn?
Yeah, I've been. That's what I really kind of came into the year. I'd kind of been there since, call it, last November, December. I see. It's two things. Number one, it is when I look at what I call the adjusted Warren Buffett metric. The Warren Buffett metric's total equity market cap over GDP. Back in 2018, people were saying, oh, it surpassed 1Q 2000. It's time to sell. We said no, because we're in the QE era. You have to subtract out federal debt because the Fed will ultimately, in a crisis, buy all of it if they have to. And so we said the adjusted Warren Buffett metric, total equity market cap minus the federal debt divided by GDP. And in 3Q18, that suggested another 60% upside in the S&P. That's about what we got to 4Q21 when it hit 100% for the first time since 1Q 2000 on the adjusted metric. At any rate, in 4Q25, that surpassed the 1Q 2000. So we are now in complete and total la-la land on equity valuations relative to the size of this economy. So you know, it's only hit those numbers twice: 1Q 2000, 4Q 21. Both times were bad times to be buying, to be overweight equities. I look at TNX, the 10-year Treasury yield times oil, going back 70 years. That combined number, and the reason those two are important are high rates and high oil are kryptonite to a financialized economy like the U.S. The current level, it's only been higher twice in the last 55 years. January 1980, right before a vicious double dip recession, and March of 2008. Both times, not great times to be chasing equities. So for me, I just look at that big picture and go, there's no reason for me to be chasing. I like gold, obviously. T-bills, that gives me the optionality as well. I'm making whatever I'm making, 3.75 or something like that to wait. And electrical infrastructure equities, I really like. Just they are, the shovel and pick makers to the whole AI thing. I don't have to. It's out of my bailiwick. I'm not smart enough to figure out which hyperscaler is going to win and who's got the best AI and all that. And you know what? At the end of the day, they all need electricity. And the companies I own, they supply the stuff to make the electricity.
But I hear your point about equities being in la la land with these valuations, but does it matter if we are landing up in a big print anyway? As per the crack up boom, if we have this liquidity injection, do valuations even make sense anymore? Do they even matter? Fundamentals are out the window.
That's a $64,000 question. February 28th through March 27th, I look super smart. S&P down 10. March 27th to now, I look super dumb. S&P up 18% or 17% from that point in time. I spend a lot of time every day, probably more time than I should, thinking about that. Is that what I'm watching? Am I watching the crack up boom and they don't matter, and it's just front running the print, or am I going to get another crack at this? And my base case is I'm going to get another crack because of what I'm seeing in bonds and what I am seeing in Hormuz and what I'm seeing in inflation. But I could be wrong.
So you see a broader equity market pullback, allowing for you to deploy your cash position, have the dry powder on the table ahead of the big print that inevitably is going to come and send everything up higher anyway.
That's my view right now.
All right. Okay. I concur with that for you for what it's worth, but not giving my opinion, although I just did. But Luke, as I said, you've had some tremendously accurate calls over the years that I've had the pleasure of chatting with you and getting your insights, with the exception of that last Bitcoin call. But you've been absolutely accurate on so many of the other topics that we've had the pleasure to discuss over the years.